All right, so I've simplified the code from the last lecture. I simply removed the method getDistance because we're not going to use it later in this section. So here on the top, we define a point class, and then below that, we initialize a point object. Now, this code is a little bit verbose because we have 3 lines to create a point object and put it in a valid state. What if this point object had a few other properties that we had to initialize like this? And maybe a few more here. Is there a cleaner way? Absolutely. So let me delete this first. All right. In object-oriented programming languages, we have this concept called constructor. So every class can have a constructor, which is basically a method that is called when we create an instance of that class. So let me show you how it works. In the class, I'm going to add a method. The name of this method is constructor. This is a reserved keyword in TypeScript. Now this method can have parameters. So x, which is a number, and y, which is also a number. And then here in this method, we can initialize these fields. So what should we write here? This dot x, we set it to this x argument that we get here. And similarly, this dot y, we set it to y. Now look, we got a compilation error here. Because when creating a new point object, we need to supply these values. Look at the error. Supplied parameters do not match any signature of call target. So here, we need to supply the values for x and y, 1 and 2. And with this, we can simplify this code and get rid of these 2 extra lines. And here's the end result. Now, what if somewhere else in our program, we don't know the initial coordinate of a point? In other words, what if I want to create a point object without setting these values? Is that possible? Yes, absolutely. But it's a little bit different from how you have seen that in other languages like C# and Java. In C#, we can have multiple constructors. In TypeScript, we can't. So the solution for this is to make these parameters optional. So here, after x, I add a question mark, and that makes x optional. And similarly, y should be optional as well. Because once you make a parameter optional, all the other parameters on the right side of that parameter should also be optional. This is a rule by TypeScript and a lot of other programming languages. So now look, we don't have a compilation error when creating a point object without initial values.